Good evening. It is Monday, October 2nd, 2023. It's episode 35 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. Welcome. It's just Rebecca tonight and myself and Miss Ellie Mae. And we're just going to pop in here and have a little conversation with the community. And I trust that everybody's having a good October. It's been pretty well and good for us. I mean, the weather's been really good. Starting to absolutely feel like fall, much cooler temperatures in the morning and in the evening. And we've been actually quite productive around the homestead, getting a lot of things done and feeling like we're making some headway, feeling like we're better today than we were yesterday and the week before. So it's been really good. We've actually, last week we had my mom up from where she lives. She's about 3 hours away. And since my father passed, she's just been a widower at home alone. And we have had her up a couple of times to try to spend some time with her, because I think that's really important to get her out of the house and have her come up and see us and see the grandkids and see the great grandkids. So we were doing that last week, and we spent a few days with her. So that was really cool. And on the way home, we were having a discussion. Somehow the discussion came up and it kind of morphed into talking about education. And so Rebecca and I are having a conversation about education, and a thing that kind of struck me, I guess, to some extent, was that I started thinking about it and asking myself the question, what was the highest grade that I actually needed to have to basically live my life as I live it today, with all the knowledge that I need, and in my career. And as I thought about it, I kind of realized that it was like 8th grade was the highest grade that I actually, really needed. I learned pretty much everything that I needed from a formal education standpoint up to that point. And, I know my father, he was someone who only worked till he was in 8th grade, and he wound up going and working at the age of 13. He was pretty much working full time at 13. And I actually don't even know if he ever received a diploma, quite honestly. I know he did take some classes at City College in horticulture and, that sort of thing. He was a gardener by trade and eventually a landscaper with the state of California. But he lived a very full life, and a very, one that I think a lot of people would look up to, and achieved a lot on an 8th grade education. And so I started to kind of think about it as far as from the perspective of the Amish community, because I know that they only teach their folks till 8th grade. And I would say for me, with the exception of the shop classes that I took in class, auto shop, wood shop, metal shop, ag shop, I mean, and I use that stuff today that I learned in those classes. But the sad reality is that those classes no longer exist. They took all those kind of classes out of school. So really, what are you learning beyond the age of 8th grade? I know there's a lot of classes to take, but again, is it something that you feel? Let me ask you, because we never really got to finish the conversation, but what's the highest grade level you needed to have in order to live a fulfilled life, a life where you were able to, enter into a career?
There definitely was some things that I did learn in high school. So I would say that probably I'd go a year beyond. I would say 9th grade. I probably really didn't need more than 9th grade. my job did require a college education. However, to do what I did,
Mm-hmm.
probably really only needed to be a specialty type of thing. Really only needed
Right.
to be 2 years and not 4 years. So 2 of those years is basically wasted doing the general ed that they have you do for the 2 years, and then the 2 years you beyond that you get to go into. So I would say that if you're going to have something that requires beyond high school, there really doesn't need to be any more than like a trade school. I would say would be worth your money.
Yeah. Yeah. I would certainly agree with that. I mean, I can't think of anything that I really retained or learned or needed to have in my career as a firefighter beyond that grade level. I mean, quite honestly, there's so much that you can learn from on the job type of stuff. Most of us wind up learning, seeing it done while we're on the job, hands-on type of stuff. The unfortunate part about it is that a lot of jobs require you to have that certification that you've completed a certain grade level. You have to have that, GED or equivalency or a high school diploma. And essentially, if you're not learning something that's going to be applicable to your career, or it's something that you're actually interested in, I guess the question is what's the point, right? And it makes me ask the question, does the Amish community have, some things right in that regard? I don't know. I'm not here to advocate for their community and how they do things, but the more that you look at how they live their lives in such a simplified way, it really it makes you think that in a lot of ways they do have it right. In a lot of ways they do kind of have it figured out. I'm not saying that that's something that you or I are considering or would ever want to do, in that
Right.
way, but it's certainly, the more you can take yourself out of what the system has been providing you, the less likely you are to see a disruption when that system is, somehow disrupted. So as it relates to how they deal with community, they're extremely deep in their community, and they have a lot of,
I think that they still have it right, helping one another in projects that are going on in their community. When I grew up and you needed to borrow a cup of milk, your next door neighbor was always there. And so I'm not equating that to the Amish, but a little bit of everybody around you helped out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. I've heard a lot of people express that, hey, I'm looking to find a community. Well, how do I do it? Whatever. And, it's so important to have that. But yet so many people have lost touch with how to make that happen. And I think that's just because of how our society's kind of been set up. But again, I kind of titled this New School, Old School, this talk. And, yeah, there's a lot of benefits to being old school, I think. Let me say hi to a couple people that are in the chat. We got Phoenix Tide and Bill Warner in. Hey, how you guys doing? Let's see here. Yeah. What particular interests learning do y'all find interest in? Current events, economics, investing, gardening, off-grid projects, animal husbandry, fires? What topics can y'all talk about for hours? Yeah, I don't know, man. I have a lot of interests personally. I mean, I'm always trying to learn different things. And I guess somewhat of my downfall is that since I do have so many things that I find interesting, I never really get super deep off into any one real thing. So I'm kind of a polymath, if you will. I have a lot of skills and knowledge in different areas, but I'm not an expert in any of those areas. So yeah, that's an interesting question. But what about you?
What I could talk about for hours? Oh, there's so many different things that we're doing. I'd have to agree with Eric. We, are looking into being as close to being off grid as possible and growing our own vegetables and raising our own meat and trying to utilize all of that as much as we can through, like I said, raising our animals, doing canning, freeze drying, pickling. So it's all stuff that's I'm learning as I go.
Yeah. There's so much of this stuff we didn't learn necessarily from maybe our parents, or certainly didn't learn this sort of stuff in school. It's something you have to have an interest in and then take the initiative to, better yourself and further yourself. And that's something that I try to do. I try to do all the time. I'm always trying to better myself, because as you've probably heard me say on this podcast before, that, try to be better today than you were yesterday. And I really mean that, because we only have a limited amount of time here. And yet there's so much that we can learn and so many ways that we can better ourselves. So we should all be proud of the things that we do. And if there's nothing that you can pinpoint and say, hey, I'm proud of myself for doing these things, putting out the effort, taking the steps, the hard steps to improve myself, maybe ask yourself why that is. Why aren't you proud? So, I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. Go ahead.
I know one of the things we talked about is why we don't leave California is because our family's here. And for me, family is very important. So I enjoy having my children that are anywhere from 3 miles to 45 minutes away.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about, really. People have asked me that, hey, why don't you leave California? It sucks. Yeah, it does, man. There's a lot about California that's like going down the tubes. Everything's super expensive. Crime is through the roof. All of the sort of things that you've heard are very true about California. Now, those exist in pockets of this state. It's not everywhere. It's not like right outside my door or right in my community necessarily. But people ask, hey, why don't you just leave and go to, Tennessee or Kansas or any of these other states that are so-called freer? It has to do with family. It has to do with those ties. And that's really the thing that binds us to this state. So, C. Quillar. I can't even pronounce your last name, dude. Quillar. Yeah, maybe that's it. Right on. But this guy, man, he's been on my Instagram for years, and it's good to see you in the chat here in YouTube, bro. But he says that college is overrated, and in the States, it's a good way to go into debt, unless you're looking to become a brain surgeon, a nurse, a lawyer, or something along those lines. Yeah, I would say that that's very, very true in a sense. I think it used to not be something where you would go into significant debt, but anymore, it's extremely expensive for people to go to college, and it's quite unnecessary. A lot of people are going to college with no real understanding of what they're going to do and how they're going to apply that degree once they get out. And it's another 4 years that a person has spent of their life and racked up a tremendous amount of expense as a result of it. And, people, I think, really should ask the question, how is this going to benefit me, and how long is it going to take me to pay this off when I actually exit this? And I don't think enough people do that. It's just all about, hey, I got to go to this next level and get this piece of paper. But again, ask the question of yourself. Ask the question, if you're somebody who's went to college, how much of that do you apply in your everyday life? How much of that degree did you actually need to do the things that you're doing in your life today or in the past as far as your career? So I think it's just an interesting question, and one that we were having a discussion on the other day, and I just thought I'd bring it up to just throw that out there and give people some food for thought. I'm not here to bash the educational system. I do think that there's better ways of going about teaching your children than sending them off to public school, because I think that public school has quite honestly not served our kids well in a lot of sense. I think they can do much better being taught in a different environment. But again, that's my personal feeling on that. And again, I'm not here to bash.
And our kids did go to public school.
Yeah.
However, I was fortunate at that particular time in our life that I could be a stay-at-home mom. And I was quite present on the high school grounds. And it was pretty nice in the fact that the kids were used to, our kids were used to seeing me on the high school grounds. So I'd say they stayed in line.
Yeah. Bill Warner says, I'm trying to build a community, and in 1 year with a very small portion of my community, I'm currently just using one word of mouth, what I'm trying to accomplish. Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to put something together, but kind of keep it on the down low. And that's probably a smart thing. Just keep the people that you're trying to keep close, keep that limited and kind of private, I would say. I think there's some value in that, not putting all your information out there as far as, hey, we've got this community that we're building or this group or whatever. I think it's, those that need to know should know. And that's my take on it, but that's awesome, man. That is it's a laudable goal and something I think, a lot of people are looking to do. And it's something that a lot of people really should be doing, because nothing that has ever been built that is of consequence has ever been done by a single person or a single entity. It's always done by a group. You look at anything that's been ever built that's been great, it's taken a collection of people. And so the power of the community or the collective, however you want to look at that, is, man, it's where it's at. Focuses on the neighborhood. Phoenix Tide asks, knowing what you know today, what would you look for in buying land, and how much land would you buy? What would you look for as location, and where have you looked? Currently, we're not looking at any place because it's not really a serious consideration for us per se. I mean, if I was buying land, if I were to buy land, it would have to be somewhere close enough where I could actually go to that land on a regular basis and make improvements to that land. It would be very foolish of me to buy land, quite honestly, in another state that I'd have to go and, maybe see once in a great while, unless my plan was to move to that location eventually. Then maybe it wouldn't be so foolish, but it would actually be smarter for me to find a piece of land close by within driving distance, maybe under 3 hours, so that I could go there on a weekend and actually make some improvements, and it wouldn't be like I needed a plane ticket or I'm driving 12 hours to get there. I think that's a very important first consideration on buying a secondary property. Buying any property, I think one of your best things to think about is water. Hugely important. Having water on your property is gold. If you have running water or you have the ability to store that water, I mean, all of that is just liquid gold. So you can never really, well, I won't say never, but it's hard to have too much water unless that water is damaging to the actual resource itself. So, yeah. And then just the access to the land, obviously, those are things that you look at when you're, assessing a piece of property. Is it something that's going to be accessible, or do you have to put in a lot of infrastructure in order to make it accessible? Then it may not be such a great choice.
Is it flat? Is it hilly? Is it wooded?
Right. Yeah. All of those things are huge. And then based on what I know now, I would want a piece of property where I don't even see neighbors. That would be high on my list. I don't even want to see people. When I go on my land and close my gates, I don't want that. So privacy would be very, very important to that equation. So, but yeah, that's a good question, man. Thanks for the question, and I hope that answered your question.
Hi, Potpourri for Life.
Potpourri for Life, how are you? Go back up.
I'm sorry.
I have autism. Bill Warner says, I have autism, and for the majority of my life, it sucked. Education is apprenticeship. Yeah. Yeah. Education is, man, it's everything, really. It just depends on where you get that education, because knowledge is power. It really is. The more you know, the more well-rounded you are, the more capable you are of conducting yourself in society and making good choices. So being educated and being well-rounded is super important. It's just where you get your information from. That's the key. A lot of people get their information, but it's what you want to believe. And right now we kind of have a fractured pool of information where you've got one side that tells you this, and then you can go over to this side and get your preconceived notion of what you want to hear validated. Oh, I don't like that. I'm not going to click on that. I'll click on this feed and click on this link because that confirms my already previously held bias. And we all have that. But it's even worse now with the internet. It just makes it, information so fractured. So yeah. YouTube is the current versities.
So when our children were deciding if they were going to go to college or not, one of the things that I had suggested to them was that whatever they choose to go to college for, try to make it a profession that no matter where they move, it's something that's desired.
Yeah, that's good advice.
In my case, I was a recreational therapist. It was very specialized. That facility that I work for is long since shut down. And now rec therapists, for the most part, are being replaced by what they call activity leaders, paid probably half the amount, doesn't require really any education. But in essence, they're doing the exact same job.
Yeah. So along the lines of what we've been talking about, kind of the new versus the old, some of us in this chat are older than others. Some are younger than others. So it's all kind of based on a perspective of new and old. What's new to you might not be old to somebody else or what have you. So let me ask you, Rebecca, what do you think is the best thing about what we have available to us in modern society? Because that would represent the new. What is the best thing about modern society, in your opinion?
I have to say I go back and forth on the cell phones. For one, if there's an emergency, it's great to be able to have somebody. In my case, Eric just ran a marathon. During that marathon, I ended up getting a flat tire at 3 a.m. in the morning. I had my cell phone. I was in a state I was not in and I was able to utilize that and have AAA out within 30 minutes to change my tire, and I was back on and at the next aid station to help him at. But on the other hand, I find that Facebook and Instagram and can be very damaging to young kids. So I don't know, I'm caught.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. This isn't really anything we've had a conversation on, but I just threw that question at her to see what she would say. And I would have to say, I tend to say mostly the same thing. I would say that the best thing about modern society, in my opinion, is technology. I think it's hard to argue the access that we have and the things that we can get at a moment's notice, at a click of a button, information, merchandise, all the things that are available to us, that modern convenience. It's super awesome. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because of all of the negative things that come along with that. It ties us closer and closer to that technology. It makes us more dependent upon it. We're having this conversation now over the internet because of technology. This is a mediated reality. Here we are in another place having this discussion where people are listening to us live. I think that is super awesome. I think it's an amazing thing. But at the same time, I think it's going to be, over the long term, I think that it's going to be something that is hard to harness, and it's going to cause a lot of people a lot of problems down the road. And it kind of already has, just in how people behave and they respond to others, and just the things that, the technocracy has the ability to do as far as being, controlling of people's lives, basically shutting down your finances, shutting down your access and your ability to have this awesome technology. It's not going to be, I don't think, as free as it is now in the future. So that's, I guess, my answer to that. Let me ask you this, and I got a treat for you guys. So stick around. I think you'll like this. At least the people that are as old as us.
As us, yes.
So let me ask you, what's the one thing you wish you could bring back from your past that no longer exists, that you think is something that you would like to see come back?
You asking them? You asking
I'm
me?
asking you.
I would say, for me as a child growing up, there was not the fear of having a homeless person come up and frighten you or make you feel like they're going to steal from you or case around or give you a strange look or whatnot. I easily could, as a young teen, walk to the park and do what I wanted and be comfortable, where I don't have that comfort now.
Yeah.
So I would like to bring that back. That's
right. I can I can see that. Hey, good evening, Lucy, from my crooked little homestead. Good to see you tonight. Yeah, I would say for me, I think it's civility. That's what I would like to see come back. I think that there's a lack of that in today's society from a lot of different people. And we've seen that manifest in a lot of different ways in society. And it doesn't necessarily happen to me personally directly, but what I see happening in society on a fairly frequent and regular basis, it's just like, it's not cool, man. And it's not getting better. It's only kind of escalating. So I would like to see civility return. But I told you I had a little treat for old people.
But before you do that,
yeah,
one of my questions to those people are some of the things in your past that you can remember that you enjoyed. I'd like to know. I mean,
right.
I remember having a milkman, the mailman carrying a leather sack and having a conversation going from door to door with little ice cream trucks, a variety of things.
Right.
That are not there. People are not as social. They're not.
Yeah, for sure. Bill Warner says, I've been watching YouTube faithfully for almost 2 years, and thanks to people like you to have made this old man. I'm 64 years old and barely a year into my dream of 50 years. Wow. Cool, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming into the chat, and thanks for watching the videos and being part of the community. I really do appreciate it. Who else do we got here? Dog Creek Farm. Yeah, Dog Creek Farm. That's what's up, man. Yeah, he's got a pretty nice property that he's bought down there in Indiana. I think he's got about 150 acres now, and been working on his farm, trying to get that up and running. But that's a smart move that you made, buying that piece of land. I think that's something that a lot of people would be very envious of, including myself. That's a sweet piece of land you got.
So my answer to Phoenix Tide would be both.
Which question? On this property one with the water? It says,
yes.
on property water, if you had to choose between a small creek or digging a well, which would you choose? As a year-round creek. If it's a year-round creek, that's like, for me, kind of a no-brainer. And then I'd probably still want to dig a well.
So that's why I said both.
Yeah. I would probably want both. But I mean, having property that has a year-round creek in it, that's like money all year long, I mean, that would just be so amazing. and we don't have that. But yeah, Laura from Potpourri Life says the information highway is great, yet one needs to be diligent in being discerning to know what they are reading or hearing as being the truth. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. I think we all have our sources, right? We all kind of like look to certain sources, but I think that also speaks to what I was talking about before, where we look at things and we discount those things based on those sources. Like, oh, that's the New York Times, or that's Washington Post, or that's liberal bullshit, and we kind of discredit it based on our own bias. So it's one of those things you just try to have to be somewhat open-minded and try to take it in, and then try to look at it from other people's perspective, because I think the one thing that people have a hard time understanding, and I did for many years, was like, you look at people and you're like, how are they, what are they doing? How do they believe that? But it's so obvious, right? But you have to understand where they're getting their information. And if their information validates their beliefs or their fears, it's easy to understand why they would have, multiple masks on and all those sort of things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I have this treat for you. And I'm going to add it to stage real quick. So
Okay.
Let's see if I can bring it up here, guys.
There we go.
Shut up. Hey.
Just like that.
Hey, stop.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know about you guys, but I remember a lot of those things. And it kind of takes you back when you see that. And it just reminds me of a time in my life, when things were a little bit better, maybe, and a little bit slower and a little bit different, and people were a little bit more gentle and kind. And it's when you see stuff like that, I guess from an old person's perspective, it kind of makes you long for some of those types of memories again. And I suspect that my kids will be having the same type of thing that they'll see from the 90s, where they'll see, oh, look, it was like, this, or it was that, and they'll have that nostalgia. And I believe that every generation probably goes through that. But I thought you guys, some of you might appreciate that. And the one thing I appreciate is this gas price. Because I can remember when I was a young kid, my siblings were much older than me. My brother was 10 and 11 years older, and my sister was 7 years older. So I was kind of like an accident. I was an afterthought. And I can recall going to the town just north of us to get gas when it was 53 cents a gallon. That's as early as I can remember gas prices. But I remember seeing signs just like that. And those actually no longer exist in my state. And I'm sure that they don't in yours either. I actually looked it up today as far as the national average on gas prices. And I believe the national average for gas prices is $3.82 in the nation. And yet in California, it's $6.08. And so, yeah, times have changed. And this is a good representation of those changes. So let me get back to some questions here. Yeah, neighborhoods. Loris from Potpourri Life says neighborhoods where people were comfortable in sitting on their front porch, welcoming others who stopped by to chit chat. Yeah, I think that exists in places. You know, I don't know if it exactly exists as often as it did in the past. Hey, stop it. You need to settle her down. Not having a cell phone. Yeah. You know, again, as convenient, as awesome as those are, I really do think that they've caused a big disruption in all of our lives and how we interact with one another. You know, technology is a great thing. And in fact, the Amish do use technology. They just choose how they use technology. They don't allow it to encumber or to cause them to a disruption in the way that they interact with each other. And I think that that's something that we haven't figured out how yet to do, because a lot of people, when they get up, first thing they do is reach for their phone and they start scrolling for shit. And then you see people sitting in the same room, both looking at screens, scrolling through shit. And so again, it's an awesome thing. The cell phone, all that information, we've got everything we want right there at our thumbs. But that's the difference between us and the Amish. They've figured out how to harness technology so that it doesn't encumber and it doesn't disrupt their lives. Let's see here. Phoenix first thought, I'd bring back family. Family is what they are attacking. I'd put family first in government policy. Family is the smallest building block of society. Smallest building block, huh? It's the most important building block, if anything. At least in my opinion, I think. Because if you think about it, think about this. Unless you're somebody like Madonna or Prince or Michael Jackson or Elvis or somebody like that, nobody but family is going to remember you after 2 generations. Think about that. So, of course, family is where everything's at. Those are the people that are going to be there on Thanksgiving. Those are the people that are going to actually pick up a phone and call you when it's your birthday. So, yeah, of course. Why do you want to stay in California? Because I'm going to pack all our stuff up and leave and go to some other place? No, family is absolutely the only reason. So, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, I lived on a dead-end neighborhood. We played basketball, kickball, etc. with all the neighborhood kids. I miss that type of youthful activity. Not that I can do it now, but seeing the kids having fun. You know, that was one thing that was really cool. Like, really the only time that I ever lived in like off of a farm was when the first time we bought our home, Rebecca and I. We bought a home in the suburbs. It was a brand new home. And it was a brand new neighborhood. It was really super cool. It was actually a very unique thing for me because I just really didn't live around people. I grew up on a farm. You know, cows were like the neighbors, right? And so going to that place was actually really cool because everybody was new. And it was like we showed up and, hey, they just bought this new house and they were already there than other neighbors. And they were having block parties like, hey, come on over. And it was super cool. I was thinking, man, this is pretty cool. And we were like going out, we were caroling. I don't know. Remember that? Yeah, we were caroling. Yeah, we were caroling. We were doing the thing, man. And it was just awesome. But then after a couple of years, people started getting divorced. People started moving out. And it was just different. But yeah, neighborhoods like that are super unique, and it's a great thing to be a part of But it just, again, for us, it didn't last. We were only there 7 years, and then we moved here, and we've been here for like 23 years. Yeah. I've been one of those coffee pots. Yeah, those coffee pots that was the only way to do it. Yeah. Lowest gas price I ever paid was 87 cents in Texas back around 1988. Yeah, the gas prices are just, everything's out of control as far as cost is concerned, and inflation. And, I don't know how these liars in political office continually lie to people's face. And then what's even more surprising to me is how people actually believe that. How people will sit there and believe what they're being told as far as, oh no, the inflation's great. No, the inflation's going down. The economy's better than it's ever been. Meanwhile, people are struggling to put food on their table. And, there's just it's not the vigorous economy that these people would have you believe. Our lying governor, I saw that dude the other day. I happened to catch a clip of him talking to Sean Hannity, talking about how the gas prices were not a result of anything that California's doing. That's the evil gas companies. That's the petroleum companies, and he's going to get to the bottom of it. Well, I've been saying for a while, guys. I've been saying this for a while, and I want you to mark my words. But that dude's going to be a presidential candidate, and I will not be surprised at all if he is the person they push across the line to be your next president. He's one of many evil people that know exactly what they're doing at the expense of the taxpayer. They're straight up enriching themselves for all their corruption, and then they're sitting up there to your face and lying to you about how great your fucking life is. So I really do think that, it's just something that it's very frustrating, but I think that people are onto it for the most part, at least those that are willing to pull down the veil and see for their own eyes what's really going on. But there's a lot of people who are not willing to do that yet. It may take some time, but we need to be patient with them. Yeah, $3.79 ACM Homestead, $3.79 for gas here in Kansas. Yeah, man, I remember when I drove out to Tennessee last March. It was. I was pumped. I was like, "Oh, look at that gas! It's like $2.94." And it was actually really cool once I got out of a little ways out of Nevada, like halfway through Nevada, prices started coming down. You get about Winnemucca, and then prices start to kind of go from there, look like normal. But they push them into the California range close to the border, But yeah, that Newsom, man, he's a lying bastard, just like all the rest of them. And he's living the good life on government taxpayers' dollars that's being stolen. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm not a fan, if you couldn't tell.
So the other one, have you played it?
No, not yet. Yeah. Yeah, crime is a big problem here in this state. And I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, if that's something that you guys are seeing in your state. I would be interested to know. Let us know in the chat if you're starting to see this sort of thing. But we're actually seeing things being locked up, and there's a lot of stores that are actually closing. San Francisco is quite a mess. There's several big metropolitan cities from New York. I think Houston is one of them. Los Angeles, Seattle, and San Francisco. I think those are the 5 like big cities where there's a big congregation of thuggery and people that don't have respect for other people's things. And they've been doing a lot of this, just go in and steal stuff, smash and grab. They'll go into a store like with a bunch of people and then just overwhelm the staff and just kind of go in and just start stealing stuff. And so they're actually pulling out of a lot of these places. I saw an article the other day where they were talking about Target, and they're closing 3 more stores in San Francisco, along with all these other large corporations that are just pulling out. They're like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. You know, it's just not worth it. So I would be kind of interested to know if there's anybody elsewhere that is seeing kind of what we're seeing, because what we're seeing, and you can validate this, is in our Walmart, in our stores, they're starting to make these sort of changes where everything's locked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like toothpaste, like underarm deodorant, you know, all of these things are being locked up. So I don't know. Is that something you guys are seeing in other states? Because it's something that we're seeing here. And I find that to be a very like disturbing kind of a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is to it, quite honestly, but, yeah, it's upsetting. And, yeah, the other day, our last president, he was asked about it, and he had a response that I thought was, I don't know, I thought it was kind of very, very Trumpian. Let's just say it was very much something you might expect him to say. And I don't really know what your thoughts are, Rebecca, on it, or what your guys' thoughts are out there are on this particular thing, but I'll play the clip of what he had to say on it. See if I can bring this up.
Okay, that should have been.
Yeah. So this was what he said.
Oh.
This is what he said. You all right? This is what he said the other day. Let me see if I can get to it. Hold on.
Just President Trump's new policy on shoplifting. Run it. Walk into a store, big department store.
You keep your hands
If you
away.
happen to be there when they're there, they'll knock the hell out of you and kill you in some cases. And we will immediately stop all of the pillaging and theft. Very simply, if you rob a store, you can fully expect to be shot as you are leaving that store.
Yeah. Very, very, very Trumpian. You know, I think that's one of those things that's like good at getting sound bites, right? But I don't know, like what's your thoughts on that, you guys? What do you think about that? Is that a valid way to deal with shoplifting? I don't know.
He sounded like there was more than one person there.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm a digital nomad. I was rich, Florida, just a few months ago, and now currently poor in California. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not seeing things locked up in New England yet. Yeah, that's good. I mean, embrace that for as long as it'll last. Maybe these sort of things won't come to a community near you, but the more policies like we have from the people that are running the show in this state, they will come your way, because nobody's willing to deal with anything. Yeah, I don't know. I personally don't think that that's such a good policy. I think that Trump's pretty good at putting his foot in his mouth. And, those are the type of clips that his detractors and the people that want to run ads against him will use to do that. So I don't think it's the best thing to say, and I don't think it's something that I would support. Something needs to be done, but I don't think confronting, somebody stealing something with deadly violence is the way to go. So I'm not in favor of that. Rich says Kroger is using wheel carts that lock when the door alarm goes off. Found out rolling after the cashier didn't deactivate a bar. Using wheel carts that locks when the door alarm goes off. Found that out rolling out after the cashier didn't deactivate a. Oh, okay. After you went out, he didn't deactivate the thing and it went off. Yeah. I've seen that as well. What they should do in our town, because they haven't done it yet, and I think it's just a money issue, but it seems like it would be a lot cheaper way to go, is to actually put those wheels on there. And I think that might be what you're referring to, but they actually will put a wheel that senses when it gets outside of the parking lot, and that wheel will lock up. It will automatically just lock up so the damn thing won't roll. And what that's going to do is it's going to deter homeless people from using that as their cart to wheel stuff around in, because there's a lot of carts that wind up on street corners in various places in our city. And then, of course, they need to go around. The sheriff department goes around with a trailer and collects all the carts that are just laying around town, But yeah, that's a super big problem. And it's just a sign of the times, really. I didn't see these sort of things years ago. I certainly didn't see it when I was a kid, but we're seeing it now. So, I guess at some point it's going to continue to spread because they're not effectively managing the issue. Yeah, politics is very broken. I would agree. And I feel, as though it's set up in a way that just, it has the ability to just continually pull money in without really doing the work of, the people that it's pulling it in from. They do the things that they say they're going to do to some extent, but it always kind of gets messed up, and it's not really a solution, or it's not really being managed in an effective way. And the people at the top, the administrators and the policymakers and the people like that, are the ones who are being most enriched by that. And I mean, that's clear to see. You can look at any one of these politicians and look where they live, where their vacation homes are, and then ask yourself, how did they get that on a public salary? Why do they have 2 and 3 homes? Why are they, it's such a level of corruption. And we wound up just losing our our state senator here a couple of days ago, I guess. Senator Dianne Feinstein. She was the longest serving senator in history. And I don't think that's a badge of honor. I don't think that that's something that, people should be proud of. And I think that's a sign of the problem that exists with politics. So I don't know. It's kind of a terrible, terrible thing that, she's passed and stuff for her family. But personally, I think people like that, I don't have any respect for. I'm not going to eulogize her as if she's something great. I'm not going to dance on her grave either, because I don't think that that's the right thing to do. But I think any of these politicians that are long serving like that know damn well what they're doing, and they're not doing what they should be for you and I. And they know that. They know they're playing a game. They know that they're skimming off the top. And yet they want to be held up as some kind of, I'm serving the public. I'm a public servant. No, you're not. You're serving yourself and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. You're not a public servant, and you certainly don't deserve my respect for being there for 80 years. So, I did hear that our governor has appointed a new person, a black woman. And that was the criteria that was supposed to be used, was, by golly, we're going to get somebody in there with some melanin in their skin. That's the criteria we're going to use, because, for some reason we've got to do that. And so he's already done that. And it's such a sham. It's so sad. Let's see what we got here for. Let's see what we got here for some. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Phoenix Tide, I don't know what to do about that, man. He says, here's one. I wish we had search results that weren't controlled entirely by a company that censors any belief, any agenda that is contrary to Google. Yeah, that would be sweet, right? But here's the thing. These platforms that we're using, they're their platforms. They can do whatever they want. So yeah, it would be great, but that's why we need somebody to step up who wants to be that person, to take on Google and to create their own cloud and their own search engine and all these things and all these servers everywhere. That's not how it works. That's not how it exists. Google exists and is doing quite well because of the partnership that they have with the public entity. Public-private partnerships rule the world, man. So if somebody wants to step up in that regard and start that company, more power to you. But what I say about that is Google is just doing what Google do. And if you don't like Google, don't use Google. That's just the way that it is, man. Like the YouTube thing. They have every right, in my opinion, to tell people what they can't say. I don't like it, but it's their platform. You don't like it? Tough shit. Go somewhere else. Don't use it. That's how it is, man. I think that personally, and maybe this is a harsh criticism or a harsh opinion, but I think if you have a business, you should be able to tell people who should and shouldn't be able to come into it. That's my club. That's my business. You don't have to support me with your dollars if you don't like my policies. That's just kind of how it is. And I'm all about freedom that way. I think we should have freedom to, if we want to start a club that says, hey, I want people with beards. You got to have a beard to be in my club. Oh, that's unfair. Go start your own damn club. So Google's like a big club that's in cahoots with public funds. So I don't agree with that. 100% I don't agree with that. But that's where somebody else needs to step up with money and create that entity that you're talking about. I'm here in Houston, the suburbs. It's because the liberal regime passed laws that it's a misdemeanor for thief under $1,500. They encourage lawlessness. Yeah. Well, that's kind of a thing here in California as well. I think they've made it so that it's like under $1,000 and it's not a felony. So the thieves know that and they can steal things repeatedly, if they stay under that threshold. And I don't know.
That's pretty amazing.
Let's see here. Overuse of force is related to fear. I know you understand what I'm saying. The task force is its general sign of times. The task force is in a general sign of time. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I'm in favor of term limits too, Bill Warner. But it ain't never going to happen because those are the people that create the laws. So I don't see it changing. I won't say it will never happen, as I think it's, foolish to say that. But I think that it's very difficult to see that change because they're the ones that are, fox guarding the hen house type of deal. So by government law requirements, Google qualifies as a monopoly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Right. Remember back in the day when they kind of went after Microsoft for being this, this big behemoth that they needed to break up because it was a monopoly. That's back before they realized the power of the search engine in Google. Google's got like the government's wrapped around Google, man. All that stuff in the Pentagon and all that stuff, that's all being run through all of this stuff, man. It's not like the federal government has their own servers and their own internet. it's all being done in a way that these other companies are a part of it, Amazon and all of that sort of stuff. So I don't know, man. Where do we go? Where do we go from here? Well, hey, you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we did lose a politician.
I was talking about
Diane.
that. Were you sleeping?
Maybe.
You must have been sleeping. I think I lost her. She wasn't listening. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, hey guys, I appreciate everybody popping in tonight and having a conversation, listening to me rant about certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong in society. And I think it's really up to us just to look at, like, how can we limit the impact from these other entities that are trying to take us in a direction we know is not in our best interest. If it's something that's keeping you from being your best self, how can you recapture that? How can you reclaim your time and make yourself better? Because ultimately that's the only person that's going to be doing that is you as your own best advocate. So I think that it's really super important for us to try to do that and discount the politicians and the power players behind the scenes that are trying to distract us at every moment, as if they're going to come in and get on the horse and be the shining knight that's going to save everything. Oh boy, when Trump gets in, it's going to be better again. Well, it's going to be better for a period, and it certainly can't be any worse than it is. But ultimately, you're the one who has the power to make things better. It's not going to be what some politician does. He might make, something short term. Maybe the gas prices get better. Maybe ammo prices come down. Maybe some of the other things that are, under attack right now and under assault, like constitutional rights being threatened and things like that. Maybe some of those things will be less of an issue. But that's only, I think, a short-lived thing, because as you saw, one man can easily be replaced. And yet you've got the same people sitting there like this when they're asked a question. What's up, Kentucky? Talking to you. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, these people are not the answer. They're going to be there even when that one person you think you're going to put back in is going to be the savior. So, it's up to us. Make yourself better than you were today. Go out tomorrow and make it happen. No, tinfoil hat is real, man. It's a real thing.
Do you remember when we went to that, not eclipse, but.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We wound up running into the eclipse up in Idaho, and it was pretty unique experience, man. We were in the path of totality, which people plan for years to be there. There were people from all over, man. They were
all over.
Yeah. Like, I brought my daughter. We've been planning this for 2 years, and it's like the path of totality. And it was going to be like 2 minutes of darkness with the eclipse. And I had no idea. We went to Sawtooth National Park, and I was pumped because I'm like, oh, I'm going to go like to this park. I'm going to run a bunch of trails, trail running and shit. And it's going to be cool. There's not going to be anybody there. And it was like packed. I'm like, what in the hell? What is this, man? And I was like pissed at first. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just kind of see what this is all about. And it was the coolest experience of my life almost. It was so unique. Yeah, there's people, like, they were playing when it hit, like, everybody's got their little things on. They're looking up at the sky, and they're playing Pink Floyd. They're playing Pink Floyd music. People are wearing like tinfoil hats.
Yeah, there were a couple guys that were up above us.
Oh yeah.
And that they had their tinfoil hats on that came like to the Tin Man, point.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. And then, like, when it actually hit, and everything got dark. It just like, because, you know, you see like a sliver and it's still light, you know, I mean, even with just the tiniest sliver, we're looking through the thing and it's still kind of light out, right? But then as soon as it hit, it was just like, it got dark all of a sudden, and you saw the corona, you know, and it's just like this ring around the moon that's blacking it out or whatever, the earth. And then the ducks on the water started freaking out, man. They're like zipping around. And it was like they didn't know what the hell was going on. And so it was actually really cool. But when you said tinfoil hat, that's what that reminded me of. Because, yeah, I got one of those too. Right on. Hey, well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for being in. And yeah, it's always fun to come in and
What are you going to do?
share a little couple thoughts.
Video going out?
No, that's good. We're good. All right. Well, thanks, guys, again. And hope to see you next week. If not, maybe we'll pop in the week after. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Great
see you.
seeing y'all.
All right. Ciao.